Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of The Sausage Factory, which is brought to you as always by Spong.com and hosted by me, Chris O'Regan. In this show we interview video game developers and ask them how they made their start making games, what their influences are and who inspires them. Split into two halves, the show initially focuses on the developer themselves, and in the second half discuss the game they're here to promote, which in this case is Forced Showdown by Beta Dwarf. Steffen, who are you and what do you do?
I am, I'm the CEO and game director at Beta Dwarf, and I kind of direct or design our games together with the other people on our team. I do a little of everything, also some marketing and business ideas, which you basically have to do when you run a company.
Yeah, this is true, and especially one has been really successful with Forced. We did interview way back in November 2013, and here we are again. Sadly, everyone, we did record this show before, and it was eaten, as his technology likes to do. Here we are, Steffen and I, actually chatting again, which is not a pleasant experience, of course, but you don't know this. But this is the second attempt at recording the 100th episode of The Sausage Factory. Enjoy! But no, this is a very special celebration because I encountered Steffen. It was PAX East we bumped into each other, wasn't it? Was it Prime? I can't remember.
I think it was Prime and also East, I guess.
Yeah, you were at East because I said, "Oh look, your Forced is still a thing and it's still happening and people are liking it." And here we go. You've got this brand new sort of sequel to it, this follow-on, because the setting of Forced Showdown was somewhat different. And I know regular listeners to the show would expect me to then delve into Steffen's history and what he's been playing. And we can talk about what he's been playing, but everything else, quite frankly, just go to episode 1. Because this man was indeed on episode 1 of The Sausage Factory. So Steffen's now graciously, I don't know why, agreed to reappear to be on the show again for the third time, but technically my second, to chat about Forced Showdown. Really, really, really fun game. I'm really happy that he's on to chat about it. But before we do talk about Forced Showdown, I'd like to chat a little about, what have you been playing?
What I've been playing recently?
Yeah, just other stuff.
I've played a lot of Hearthstone. Really a lot recently, which because I'm
out recently. What's going on with that?
What?
Is there an expansion for it?
It's been 2 months or something, 1.5 or something before the last expansion came out, and I've just been trying to finally reach Legendary, but still haven't done it because I always fail to find the time.
Right.
And probably also I could be 10% better.
I've only dabbled in it. I haven't really played it enough. For some reason, I haven't had its hooks slice into me. I think I know why. This would be a really boring techie reason. It's not because of the game. It's because my provider is profoundly bad at providing internet access.
Internet?
Okay. Yeah, because my mobile phone, when I'm on the train, would be perfect to play it on, except my carrier is bad. It says it's 3G, but it's not. It's barely anything. As soon as my phone says 3G, I have barely any internet access. If it says 4G, it's fine, but 3, it just cuts out. And so I can't play any online games at all. I've had this discussion with other developers who make games for mobile phones. They said, "Oh, it'll be fine." I said, "No, trust me, it's not. It's a bad carrier." It's O2, by the way. Thanks. So I can't play. So that means the only time I get to play it is when I'm at home or near a Wi-Fi. So it's you probably think there's quite a lot of places, but actually it's not. The best place for me to play that sort of game is, but it just doesn't really happen. So I'm kind of cut off from a lot of games like that. But what is it? Do you think? Because obviously there's aspects of Forced Showdown that definitely feels like sort of presentation-wise and mechanically too in some aspects from Hearthstone. But what is it the thing you really draws you to that game?
I think it's the lighthearted competition aspect of it. It's really competitive, but not in a StarCraft-ish way, where you almost don't dare to play a match. And then I really, really love the overall card mechanics of card games, and Hearthstone is just a good example of a good card game. And it has a huge community, which of course also helps.
It's a reasonably not so toxic community as well, from what I can
probably because they've removed chat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because if you read like a patch update or something, it's filled with toxicness as well.
Absolutely, and that's a problem with any creator of a multiplayer game, is it just gets swamped with I don't know, just people not really understanding the concept of, if you're new to a game, then you are you're gonna do silly things because you're not used to it, you don't understand it, and you get vilified for it, and it just doesn't make any sense, because you were once the person yelling at those new players. They were a new player once as well. So how would you have felt like if you were told you're an idiot? It just doesn't make any sense. Without those new players, the game that you like so much and play so much will die. And it's just, but you try to explain this to people, and it's a very strange thing.
I guess it's the same in traffic, where you have this anonymity of sitting behind the wheel and or behind and you can sit in a car, and then you're really, really angry at people. But if you are going to say it to their face, it's a different story.
Absolutely, although sometimes it's not. That's the problem, and that's when you have road rage. When someone gets up, and that act of getting up, marching over to their door, whatever it is, and then hurling abuse at them face to face, you've reached that barrier. You've reached that point where, like, what are you doing? It's pretty galling. So, anything else apart from Hearthstone?
I don't know. It's just like a really solid package, and probably one of the best online card games that I've tried so far.
Oh right, yeah, we spoke about that last time. Again, the show that got eaten and died. We did talk about it last time, and I sent you a link to Millennium Blade, didn't I? Did you read up?
Yeah, that was something where you made your own game or something, right?
Yeah, you played. It was like a game of an experience. So it's a simulation of a collectible card game, but isn't a collectible card game. So it simulates the experience of playing in collectible card games, collecting them, buying them, and then playing in tournaments. It's just amazing, and it comes with thousands of cards. I'm not joking, not just hundreds, thousands of cards.
That's pretty impressive.
It's really incredible, and do have a read up of that. Listeners, do have a look up. It's a very odd game, very odd, and it has different scenarios. And you have actually people you can have it's just very strange, and all the cards are exquisitely designed, and it does look and feel like a genuine game of a CCG, but it isn't. It's just very, very strange. And I think someone backed it on Kickstarter. That's why it's one of those classic Kickstarter games that it could never possibly work as a commercial game, a commercial concern. But it became one. But yeah, the fact that it thinks about games upon games. Any other card games then that you're playing?
I've played Soulforge.
Yes.
And the real life Magic the Gathering, and also the digital versions, and Clash Royale, and some other minor ones that I only played very little.
Right. Yeah, I've never got into Magic. Tried it over and over again, but I don't know. It's just doesn't really appeal. I much preferred the Warcraft. World of Warcraft
card game?
Yeah, card game. Which was,
I've never tried that.
Yeah, well you have, because you're playing Hearthstone.
Okay, so it's very similar to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But imagine that as a genuine physical card game. I still got lots of it. Throw it away. I just still got, because I spent not a small amount of money on it.
But one super interesting thing they did was the idea of raids, where you were several characters with decks against the raid boss. I think that was pretty interesting.
Yes, I have those as well. I have those.
But I never tried it.
No, nor did I, sadly. I only had one-on-one.
Okay.
But I do have the equipment to do it. I might do it one day. Because it's one, a one-off game. It looks like any other regular board game if you develop it right and you treat it right. It's like, it's just a regular, it's you're basically doing a raid or simulating a raid as you would in WoW. Speaking of WoW, have you seen the film?
I have, yes.
Oh,
and I think it. Yeah.
How is it? I haven't seen it.
I didn't have high expectations, but I must admit that I think it was actually really good.
Wow.
So it kind of was better than I expected. So I guess that was really good.
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, because I hear that if you've played WoW for any length of time, you get a lot from this film because there's lots of like nods to certain areas and events. Is that true?
Yeah, but also very much to Warcraft 3, and I played that game probably more than WoW.
The game that brought birth to Dota.
Yeah.
I know you and I know that, but a lot of people don't. Being Dota is a mod. It's a mod. It was.
How would they?
Yeah, amazing the fact that they. That's the amazing thing, isn't it? Like Counter Strike was a mod for Half-Life. Was it?
Yeah.
Yes. And I do hear of people. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and someone said, "Oh, I don't don't really get into mods." I'm like, yeah, you might. Yeah. Don't say that too loudly because a lot of the best games you've ever played in your life started life as a mod. And that's not a problem, that's not a bad thing. In fact, some of the best developers started life as modders. I'm sure you know a fair few. Okay, so anything else? Or should we move on to the second half?
Sure, let's do that.
Let's do that. So, your turn to pitch for the second time. Sorry, everyone. Tell us about Forced Showdown.
Yeah. So how far have you reached into it?
Boss sort of thing. I got reasonably far. But it's hard to actually measure. What do you mean?
I guess you have played the first campaign then,
and the first campaign.
Yeah.
I was about halfway through the second, I think.
Okay. But yeah, the game is like it's some would say that it's a roguelike deck building game, but where the action is kind of like a twin stick shooter. And you have your character that you enter a randomly generated adventure with, and the adventure consists of a set amount of battles. And in each battle, your goal is to defeat the opponent boss, so to say. And in each of these battles, you have to survive 8 rounds, where you then encounter the boss at the end. And during these rounds, you have to level up your characters with cards, and those cards are the cards that you chose yourself and put into a deck, and then you randomly get those during the arena, the 8 arenas that you're going through, and then it's your job to play the best ones for the situation-based arenas that you're encountering, but also build up your character towards the boss that you encounter at the end. So it's like a mix of Twitch skills, and then tactical decisions in relation to which cards you choose to level up your character with. Or you can you can also play a card that's only good for one arena, but it could be good if the arena is really, really tough, and it will save you a lot of health that you can then have against the boss. So hope that kind of makes sense.
It does, and it does lead on to my first sort of formal question to you, and it's something I wanted to talk about before we had a chat before the recording of the show. And there's aspects of this game that I wanted to focus on. Is that I think how really important is it for choosing cards over and above your own ability of your skill in order to complete a level? What I'm trying to say is that if in the event you do have a bad deck, in inverted commas, that won't hinder your progress to the point where you have to start again.
We've basically aimed at designing it so that in theory you are able to complete the game with the starting deck, but it would be super hard, and there will be some battles that have modifiers that might be roadblocks. So it's kind of also about learning the different systems in the game, and you kind of know them before you enter the battle. So it's also about choosing stuff that is okay for your particular deck that you've designed, if that makes sense. You could, for instance, end up in a battle where there's a rule that says you draw 2 cards in each arena, but you take damage if you have more than 5 cards on your hand when you start an arena, and that is, of course, a huge problem for decks that only have like high mana cards.
Yes, I can.
So in that way, you have to kind of learn the different systems in the game and avoid that, which is problematic for your deck.
Yeah, that's something I've been experimenting with. Optimizing one's deck based on the enemy or the creatures you're fighting and the boss at the end. Because that's what's really I'm finding is that the 8 levels you go through are more like a means to an end to get to the boss. You may disagree, but that's basically how I see the game, is that it's all about a preparation. Because what's really quite interesting, and you haven't really mentioned, is the fact that you have your health starts from maximum, and then as you progress through the rounds, your health doesn't reset or anything like that. It stays as it was the previous one. So there's a definite case of careful self-preservation going on, isn't there?
Indeed, yeah. You get full health once you complete a match, but from arena to arena you don't really replenish it unless you have cards that does it, of course.
So, well, a blunt question to you on that is the next design question really is, why?
Why you don't replenish your health?
Why did you do that? I know why, but I want you to explain it, because I think I've got a pretty good idea why, but why did you do that?
I think the main reason is that it makes each arena much more meaningful, because it's about how effective can you be in terms of saving your health for the remainder of the battles. And I think that's overall what makes a lot of roguelikes more interesting, because you play a lot of the same content, but it keeps it interesting because you can always be more efficient at it. And efficiency is basically how much health can you avoid losing.
And it's just the optimizing play, doing the min-maxing nonsense and that sort of thing, but just making sure that it's rewarding a player for their skill. If they are relatively unscathed, and I know there's achievements in there for this for doing that, but it's something that's encouraged, it's a resource that's more or less non-existent. You can get cards that heal you, but if you buy that card to heal you, then you're using that mana or using that resource, expending that on something that could be more destructive rather than more beneficial than just healing you. Because all it is yes, it's making your chance of survival, increases your chance of survival, but at what cost? That means you've now used that mana or that power to gain that card, as opposed to a card that might be more useful. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes, but sometimes it's also important to remember that having a lot of life can also mean more damage. A lot of people have the tendency of saying as soon as you spend, let's say, resources on health, that is totally wasted damage. But it's not always like that. Health can also mean that you can sustain opponent damage while you're dealing damage, meaning that you don't have to interrupt your attacks and stuff like that.
So, and now we're going to, unfortunately, repeat a question we did last time. Sorry, Steffen, but and again, apologies to listeners, but we might be able to expand a little bit more than we did last time. But so the theme of Forced Showdown very different from the original game. I didn't see it coming at all. Didn't know where you're going with this, and like, something very odd is going on in this world. Forced came across as this high fantasy medieval setting, in a way. Yet, turns out it's actually a gladiatorial TV show with sarcastic end bosses and showmans and cameras flying around. How did this come about?
So it's from the original game. It's always been about gladiators, and gladiators is basically a show format, kind of invented to just grab the attention from poor people and focus it on something else, so they wouldn't complain about society and stuff like that. And it's kind of what we also wanted to do in a futuristic version here. So the first game was about these gladiators who were forced to basically train to see if they could survive and then go somewhere. But you didn't really know throughout the whole game where that go somewhere were. And that's basically what Showdown tells you, that you end up in this forever loop of entertainment, where there is this crazy character Caesar, which is of course an inspiration from the original Rome Caesar, who was like part of inventing the Colosseum battles, and that's kind of the reasoning. I guess the biggest twist is also like the lightheartedness of the humor and so on. It's a little less evil in comparison to the first game.
Yes. It's a complete pivot, using that phrase, and I just did. But it's definitely a change in theme and ethos. But the actual core game and the skill required is not reflective of that. It's just that you're still a gladiator. You still have honor. You still want to get through this thing and see it to the end. And that's what a great roguelike is, really. So. The last question then, and this sort of relates to what I've just said really, is what has been carried over from Forced, and also how does Forced Showdown encourage repeat play?
Okay, so what carries over is that it's basically the combat mechanics. The way that you control your characters is totally similar, except for actually also combo points in one of the characters that we had in Force, but it's a little different. But it's mainly the controls and the view and so on, and the way that you combat, and almost everything else is not really carried over, which is also why we didn't want to call it a sequel, because we'll probably do a real sequel at some point. It's more like a diversion into a more single-player focused game, because Force was not really intended for single-player game.
No, it was a co-op game, and we spoke about this last time. Again, apologies, listeners, but the evolution, or how Forced Showdown came about, is you saw more and more people playing Forced on their own, and like, well, you wanted to do that, but you seem to be having fun with it. Let's run with that for a little bit, and that's right. I'm right in thinking that, aren't I?
Yeah, so basically we just wanted to have a solid co-op experience and a solid single-player experience. That was the idea of making Showdown. And what was the second question?
Sorry. It's just how you encourage repeat play, because that's the core of any roguelike, is that in the event that you fail, and believe me, you will, because it's quite hard. How do you encourage players to have another go? What's the carry-on from the previous session they've had that encourages them to keep bashing away at it?
Yeah, that is, in my opinion, people will basically not play a roguelike anymore when they don't have an idea of, or when they feel that there's not any more stuff to achieve. So basically the idea is that there was a ton of stuff to achieve. There's 3 different campaigns, and there's emblems to make those campaigns even harder with. And it will take quite some time to reach that. I mean, the campaigns are pretty short if you think about duration only, but they're super hard, so you can usually end up dying on your way through a campaign. But then we wanted to add something that makes it interesting to play the campaign again, and that's typically getting some new cards that you can change your character with before you enter the campaign again. So it's that combination of new challenges, or constant different challenges you can select from, and your tools that also vary because you get like permanent progression in the way that you get a little bit of better stats throughout your journey in the game, but like that you get permanently, and also you get a bigger card collection.
Yes, you do. You gather more cards. The more things you do, even if you fail, you still gain more cards to add to your deck, and that just gives you more and more weapons and more choice and flexibility to actually overcome the foes that you're facing. And that
so and then you of course also have your like quest progress, where you can, that is, I guess, explains your progress throughout the game, plus emblems.
Yes, and visually it's much better than Forced. Actually, Forced is pretty high quality with regards to graphics and visuals, but you certainly pulled the stops out with Forced Showdown. Was there a particular driver for that, or is it just something that naturally came to pass?
Well, first of all, thank you, but it's mainly also because Forced was made while we were kind of students,
right.
And we had way better resources when we made Showdown. Like, and overall, we were better developers because now we had a lot of experience.
Yeah. So that the story of Phil Fish, bless him. He of Fez fame and little else, but he told a story of many reasons why Fez took so long to make, because he was just learning how to do pixel art, and then when he finally got to the later stages, when he was making levels, he was getting better and better at it, and then he looked at the earlier stuff he'd done, and it was terrible compared to what he was done later, so he had to go back to the earlier stuff and rebuild it all. I'm not suggesting you did it here, but there's a bit of that going on, is there not?
And we did that with the first Forced, where we scrapped all our models and so on twice until our third iteration was the final one.
Wow.
And in Showdown we'd never scrap, but we scrapped a lot of. We wanted to reuse a lot of Forced models and so on, because they were basically kind of the same creatures in Showdown, but we decided to scrap quite a few of them and just make them more beautiful in Showdown.
Yes. And that certainly paid off. I think what struck me is it's the fluid animation of everything, but also the lighting. And you probably didn't spot that, or maybe didn't focus on it. I don't know, but that's what really struck me, is how the levels are lit, and it's only there's certain parts like this is important, this really isn't much, and it's very subtle. But you probably did it subconsciously, or maybe you didn't. I don't know. But
it is something we spend a lot of time on, and we also have like a dedicated person sitting and making lights and effects.
Because you can find yourself hiding a section like that. You need to know about that. We don't want to, put a big spotlight on it, but they need to know that they can go there, but they really shouldn't be going there, otherwise things are going to happen. So, that's just really, really good. So, Steffen, thank you very, very, very much for being on the show again.
Or the third time, I guess.
I can assure you this show will not be eaten by the whatever gremlins that appeared last time. So again, the platforms that it's available on, could you remind me?
Yes, we actually just released it 3 days ago on Mac and Linux, and then it's on PC, and it will also arrive on Xbox One and PS4, and probably also Wii U in, I don't know, but it will be sooner than later.
Yes. I thought you were about to reveal that it's going to come out on the NX then. I thought, oh look, he's working on an NX port. No, I'm kidding.
There will actually also be some cool news at the end of July. Yeah.
That's excellent news. And also, we'd love to have you back on for the fourth time, or third time, to chat about your new enterprise, whatever that may be. I know you can't tell me what it is, and I really sympathise with that, but I'm sure it's going to be an extraordinary thing based on your current output. It's going to be an amazing thing. So, again, thank you very much for your input. I do have to ask though, on the console ports, I actually played it with mouse and keyboard. How have you found doing the controller? I never actually played it with the controller, but the precise aiming you need is quite interesting. How have you solved that problem?
kind of like enforced. It's a twin stick shooter, so it was designed to be well playable with the controller from the start. So it's not really a problem for us. A lot of
the reason I say that is because I was playing a lot of Doom recently, and that game needs a mouse and keyboard. I'm sure you appreciate. In my opinion, sorry, console fans. And I played Forced Showdown with it, and I mouse and keyboard, so just get that precise aim as you blast things around. It's awesome.
And I mean, nothing can compete with mouse and keyboard, but when you have to play with a controller, I would say twin stick shooters are pretty good for that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I've kept you far too long as it is. Have a great afternoon, and I will hopefully speak to you again soon. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you too, Chris.
And so ends another episode of the Sausage Factory. Do leave us an iTunes review, and you can also, don't forget, listen to us on Stitcher.com. So just go to Stitcher.com and you can stream the show from there. You just look up the Sausage Factory and you can find us. That'd be great. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris O'Regan, no apostrophe. And if you want to email me any feedback on the show, or actually you're a developer, you listen to the show and want your game featured on it, please do email me at chris@spong.com.
Also, don't forget to check out the Computer Game Show, which is the stablemate podcast, should we say, of spong.com.
Bye!